Hello, everyone. How you doing? Welcome to Israel Doctrines Google Hangout. I'm your host, Carl Albert Davis, and we will have a special guest today. And the title of today's show is How Panama, Canada, and Greenland fits in Donald Trump expansion of U.S.A. And with that, I would like to play a little audio, and then the show will start.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be with you. Many things are happening that are exciting.
Can you assure the world that as you try to get control of these areas, you are not going to use military or economic coercion?
No.
What is the strategy?
Yeah. I can't assure you, you're talking about Panama and Greenland. No, I can't assure you on either of those two. But I can say this, we need them for economic security. It might be that you'll have to do something. Look, the Panama Canal is vital to our country. It's being operated by China. And we gave the Panama Canal to Panama. We didn't give it to China. And they've abused it. They've abused that gift. It should have never been made, by the way. Giving the Panama Canal is why Jimmy Carter lost the election, in my opinion.
Your position is clear, but have you directed your staff to take specific actions or draw plans? And can you elaborate again? You didn't rule out military coercion.
Well, we need Greenland for national security purposes. I've been told that for a long time, long before I even ran. I mean, people have been talking about it for a long time.
Are you also considering military force to annex and acquire?
No, economic force. Because Canada and the United States, that would really be something. You get rid of that artificially drawn line, and you take a look at what that looks like, and it would also be much better for national security. Don't forget, we basically protect Canada. It's going to be changed. It's sort of the opposite of Biden, where he's closing everything up, essentially getting rid of 50 to 60 trillion dollars worth of assets. We're going to be changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, which has a beautiful ring that covers a lot of territory. The Gulf of America, what a beautiful name. Before it started, I can tell you that. The deal could have been made just by an average deal maker. Deal could have been made on that. And Mexico has to stop allowing millions of people to pour into our country. They can stop them. And we're going to put very serious tariffs on Mexico and Canada, because Canada, they come through Canada too. And the drugs that are coming through are at record numbers.
Okay, everyone, that's the audio. And now we got our correspondent, Dollar Steele's in the house. He will be taking over. I will be listening and asking questions. But the majority of the show will be held by Dollar Skills. How you doing today, Dollar?
I'm good, bro. How you?
Oh, man, I'm good. Went out, took care of some business. Now it's time for this business. You got the floor.
Yeah, man. Well, I'm gonna try to get through. We might have to break this up into maybe another show, but I'm gonna start off like, this is military mindset, because Israel Doctrine is a lot of Tupac. I thought I'd bring some military discussions as it relates to protecting this land we call North America from its enemies. And we got a lot of enemies in the world, obviously, because of politics and many other things. But the title, How Panama, Canada, and Greenland Fit if Donald Trump expands the U.S. And the audio you was playing was current as it relates to Trump claiming that he wants to expand the U.S. territory, something that hasn't happened in a very long time. But I want people to look at the map and see the strategic location that Greenland fits in as it relates to what you can see, Russia, the U.S., Canada, and then you got the Arctic Ocean, right? And then you got Greenland. Now, I'm going to just do some brief stuff. Everything that I'm speaking about, I want the audience to do their own research, because though I'm going to do a lot of drops of information, I think that the audience listening should do their own research as it relates to this. And then I want to add this last thing, and then I'll get started. when I came to Israel Doctrine, I saw that he was pushing and teaching Israel Doctrine, basically the Bible, KJV, 66 books. And anybody that understands Christianity and the nation of Israel and all of those things, they know that the Bible deals with a third of the Bible deals with prophecy. Another third deals with history. The whole book could be looked at as prophecy, but the Bible is prophetic. So when I came to Israel Doctrine, what I noticed is that he was doing a lot of forecasting in the so-called conscious community. And then I coined that this platform is a forecasting network. It's kind of like when you're watching the weather and you want to know what the weather's going to be like. You know, when you see storm clouds forming, it's 9 out of 10 times going to rain. When you see the wind kick up, you might get a tornado. So though Israel Doctrine broadcasts a lot of information, it's a forecasting information as well. So what I want to do is deal with the current events as it relates to these locations, but then a little bit later on, I'm going to start to build with Carl, hopefully, about some eschatology. And if people want to know what eschatology is, it's just the study of end time prophecies. And if you watch the platform, as of late, you might be able to go back and watch some of Carl's videos. He's been having debates with a group of people who claim to be full preterists. Full preterism believes that all things in the biblical account as it relates to prophecy was all fulfilled in AD 70. And that creates a group of people who say they're full preterists, whereas Carl in the Israel Doctrine has spoken that they're partial preterists. And I agree with Carl. I'm also a partial preterist that believes, though the Bible has a lot of prophecy that was fulfilled in AD 70, those prophecies also span past AD 70 all the way to the current, and then what we're going to see coming up. So I'm saying all that to say I'm going to deal with the current events, and then we're going to talk a little eschatology of how the Bible lays out where all these events that we're talking about ultimately is heading as it relates to the return of Jesus Christ to this earth and the establishment of God's kingdom on earth. So I'm going to start just basically with, giving people a brief understanding. We got 3 locations that Trump is trying to secure or expand the U.S. territories to include. One is Panama, the other's Canada. Obviously, most people know probably more about Canada than anything else, but also Greenland. So just understanding Canada real quick, and you can wiki search this stuff. So I'm just giving basics on these locations. Canada is a country in North America. Obviously, it has 10 provinces, 3 territories extend from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean and northward into the Arctic Ocean. So that's like the key for the strategy of why Trump is trying to either make Canada the 51st state or have it become an expansion of U.S. territory. Because if you look at the map, you're going to see that the Canada's location, the U.S., Russia, and Greenland, they all pretty much circle around that Arctic Ocean, right? So as a strategic way to protect the United States, Canada becoming a 51st state would allow the U.S. to have a little bit more foothold in that Arctic Ocean more directly, as opposed to indirectly Canada being an ally right now. Trump wanting to basically make it a 51st state. He's trying to be able to bring the U.S. military closer to that Arctic Ocean, which goes to the next place real quick, and I'm going to try to be as quick and not as long-winded as possible. So the next place we're going to be talking about is Greenland. Greenland is a self-governing country within the Kingdom of Denmark. It is the largest of 3 constituent countries of the kingdom, and other 2 being metropolitan Denmark and the Faroe Islands. So that's just a basic location for where Greenland is. Greenland is controlled by the Kingdom of Denmark. Now, this is going to be important for what we talk about later, because Denmark is currently a part of the European Union. So basically, it's a territory under Denmark, but Denmark being a part of the European Union, which includes nations like Germany, France. It used to include the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom is no longer a part of the European Union, but there's many countries that have come together in a union, and Denmark, being the holder of that Greenland, is part of the European Union. So again, I want everybody to stay focused on the map that's on the screen, because the first thing is Canada, and then you got Greenland. And if you see the strategic locations of Canada and Greenland as it relates to the U.S. and Russia, everything is centered around that Arctic Circle. Right. So and I'm going to get to Panama a little later, but we're going to stay up in the north right now, because what I believe Trump is trying to do is he's trying to put a military stronghold in Canada and Greenland to avert a war that has been being spoken about and rumored in our lifetime, World War III. Trump, even while he was campaigning, said he's going to stop World War III from happening, because the political powers that be that are in opposition to him is trying to bring this world into a global war, which is going to involve thermonuclear weapons and all kind of weapons that are secret, that we might not even know exist. And this is all prophetic in the Bible. As I said, we'll get to that in a little while. But Greenland, you see the strategy, because I'm going to read something to you, and what I'm going to read to you is coming from The Guardian. This was an article that was put together last year as it relates to that Arctic Ocean. And so, all right, so you got, like I said, you got the map. Everybody sees Greenland, everybody sees Canada, they see the U.S., they see Russia, and they see Iceland, and all that's wrapped around that Arctic Circle, or the North Pole. Right, so let me just read an article about what Russia has been doing in that area as late as last year. So at a naval parade in 2023, Vladimir Putin established a new maritime doctrine establishing Russia as a great maritime power. So basically in 2023, Vladimir Putin established a whole new doctrine that he was officially establishing Russia as a great maritime power. Now, everybody might know the history of Russia. I'm going to get into a little bit of that later, but we know that Russia was once our ally during World War II, after the America, Britain, and the Allied forces took down the Nazi regime, Germany was divided between Russia and America. That's why we had the Berlin Wall. So on the east side of Germany, Russia took control of those territories, and on the west side of Germany, on the wall, America took control of those territories, and we were once allied with Russia. That us being allies with Russia, later, as everybody knows, it built up after World War II, and then we went into the Cold War, where Russia and the U.S. been adversarial to each other all throughout that time ever since. So right now, Russia is listed as an enemy to the United States. So keep that in mind when I'm reading to you about what's going on in that Arctic Circle. So at a Navy parade in 2023, like I said, Vladimir Putin established new maritime doctrine. So controlling the Arctic strategic resources and value has long been ambition of Soviet and Russian leaders historically. So for a long time in history, when the old Soviet Union all the way into modern Russia under Putin, they always wanted to take control of that area because they believe it's strategic for resources, military purposes, etc. So in 2007, Russia placed its flag on the seabed of the North Pole and claimed an area contested by Canada and Denmark. And that's important because, again, when you look at the map and you see what I had explained earlier, you see that Greenland, which is a territory of Denmark, and Canada have been at odds with Russia over this whole transaction that relates to that Arctic Circle. And Russia put a flag on the seabed of the North Pole and claimed an area that was contested by Canada and Denmark in 2007. Now we go a little bit ahead to last year. In 2023, the data in Russia's claim was validated by the UN Commission. So Russia placed this flag on the seabed and said, yo, all this territory in this Arctic Ocean on the floor, we claiming all of this. And then they got validated in 2023 in the United Nations Commission for having the right to claim that as sovereign territory of Russia as it relates to that Arctic Circle. The Russians claimed a little under 6,900 acres of ocean floor in the North Pole, which has 17.3 billion tons of oil and 85.1 trillion cubic meters of gas. So already Russia is trying to expand its imperial empire by claiming that location in the Arctic Ocean with a trillion cubic meters of gas and oil that is going to come to them if they're able to fully lock that down and get everything going, right? So Russia owns nearly half of the polar territory with its state-of-the-art military bases and updated air bases in Alexandria land close to Denmark, right? So back to Denmark and Greenland. You got Russia trying to assert itself in areas and territories that put them into a modern warfare with the European Union, because Denmark is part of NATO and part of the European Union. You got Germany, France, Italy, etc., and all of these countries that would definitely not want to see Vladimir Putin expand his military into the Arctic Ocean at the minute at which he's doing it, and then line up to take over the world as it relates to trade routes and all of those things. So I'm going to go a little further. Since 2005, it's opened 50 Soviet area military bases, including 13 air bases, 10 radar stations, and 20 border outposts. So you can see, like I said, Russia's in that Arctic Circle, and they're building up their military with bases, air bases, radar stations, etc. Russia also modernized its northern fleet, upgrading numerous submarines capable of launching long-range thermonuclear weapons and hypersonic missiles designed to evade U.S. sensors and defenses. So now this article is starting to delve into Russia's ability to bring thermonuclear weapons, long-range missiles, and hypersonic missiles into that area in the Arctic Circle, and to even evade U.S. sensors. So back to the original thing, because I don't want to get off topic. We talking about how Panama, Canada, and Greenland fit if Donald Trump can expand the U.S. So this is talking about why Trump is trying to expand the U.S. further out into Canadian territory and Greenland, because it relates to that Arctic Ocean and the Arctic Circle with the North Pole and Russia and all the trade routes and the ability, in my opinion, to actually attack the United States from the north. Now, history tells us that the only time the United States was ever really attacked from an outside source was when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor in World War II. That brought us into World War II. We as a nation are blessed. I believe the North America's blessed because what it always had was two great oceans separating us from most of our adversaries. You got the Pacific Ocean to the west, and you got the Atlantic Ocean to the east. So if a nation from overseas was really trying to come and attack us, they would have to come across those great oceans, and 9 out of 10 times we will be able to detect them. But when you look at what's going on in the Arctic Circle with Russia, this is another Achilles heel to the protection of the United States of America as it relates to our enemies, because they can use the Arctic Ocean with their submarines to launch missiles over Canada and hit the United States with thermonuclear weapons. Now, if that sounds crazy, we see what's going on in Ukraine currently, and the Russians just recently showed the world that they have a hypersonic missile that can deliver a nuclear payload, and no world systems of missile defense can block it based on how fast this missile travels. Now, they hit the Ukraine with the missile. They just didn't put the actual thermonuclear payload on it to show the world that they wasn't BSing. Meaning that this thermonuclear weapon that they have created with their scientists can break any missile defense system currently in play based on the speed. And they use this weapon. Everybody can do their research and type Russia thermal hypersonic missile and the Ukraine war and see that just recently they used this weapon on the Ukrainians without a nuke on it, just to show the world that Russia's military is reaching a level that no nation on the earth currently can block as it relates to nukes. So back up to that Arctic Ocean and what I'm reading about Russia and the strategic location of Greenland, and why would Donald Trump want Greenland, and why would Donald Trump want Canada? Because he's trying to save this country from World War III and an attack from our enemies. A lot of people have their distaste for Donald Trump, but I believe Donald Trump is a wartime president because he understood what was being done by what a lot of people call the deep state. The deep state used to be a terminology that if you said it, you was a conspiracy theorist. Now, over time, the deep state is being more understood to be the administrative state of the United States of America, or the fourth branch of government, and this includes most of the top media companies. They have been hijacked by a political party. We tend to call them Democrats. And I want to make this clear. When I'm having this discussion, this is not to alienate all Democrats. I'm talking about the upper echelon of the Democratic Party and what they've been doing as it relates to international affairs over a long period of time. And I also want to make this clear. It also includes Republicans, because many Republicans who side with the Democratic Party have also been a part of this build-up to what I believe is an attack on the United States of America, where they plan for us to lose the war and then overthrow the United States Constitution and bring us into a new world order. That's just part of it. But I'm speaking about the political parties because the Democrats have been mainly in power since the 1960s. Yes, we've had Republican presidents like Ronald Reagan, the Bushes, but what I'm trying to show is what Trump was able to do by creating MAGA, which a lot of people have to understand the politics. He was able to show that there is a separation between true Republicans and those who are rhinos, is a terminology. Republican in name only. And when I say that, is what do you mean Republican in name only? Well, that would include many of the Republicans that we've seen, like who sat on the actual January 6th committee, the daughter of Dick Cheney. There's a lot of other Republicans that they have to show the people are Republican in name only, meaning that they're listed as Republicans, but they really side with the Democrat Party and they're not real Republicans. This is why Trump created MAGA. And then he had to take over the Republican Party, place his daughter-in-law as one of the heads of the Republican Party, and show the American people that these people that I'm selecting now are real Republicans. They're not going to side with the other side of the political aisle or the Democrats until this country comes together and gets this thing right. Because what that Democratic Party has been doing with some Republicans is leading us into a global thermonuclear war with various countries, World War III. And if we don't get this right now, we would have been in that war already. I'll get a little bit more to that, but I'm saying all of that to bring it back home. So you see Greenland, you see the strategy of the North Pole and the Arctic Circle, you see Canada, you see U.S.A, and you see Russia, and you know that Greenland, being an actual territory of Denmark, is an asset of the European Union, right? So I'm going to finish up with what I was reading from the article. So I spoke about all of the air bases and the radar stations. Russia's modernizing its northern fleet, upgrading numerous submarines. So back to the submarines, capable of launching long-range thermonuclear weapons and hypersonic missiles designed to evade U.S. sensors and defenses. So what I'm trying to show y'all, and this is a key because there's been a lot of back and forth about global warming, right? And I want to speak about global warming because you have an argument going on in the globe that the earth is either cooling down or heating up. That's where global warming and the topic came from. You have people who believe the earth is actually heating up. Now, the people who believe earth is heating up, they have a strong argument because a lot of those North Polar caps have been melting. And I'm going to read you something as it relates to the melting of that Arctic Circle, right? It says, Arctic free from summer ice by 2040 to 2045. So basically, based on what they call global warming, they believe that by 2040, that ice in that Arctic area is going to be melted in the summertime months. This is something that wasn't happening in modern history, meaning you can go, and I want to make sure everything I say, you can go look up in your leisure to all the listeners, go look up the melting of the North Pole caps. There's videos of huge chunks of ice just falling in the ocean, and they relate that to climate change and global warming, right? So by 2040, when the summer hits, that whole area up in that Arctic region can allow for submarines and different underwater vessels to actually come up and then launch thermonuclear weapons over Canada and hit the United States. So this is why Trump wants Greenland, because he wants to set up military bases in the race against Russia, being able to secure that area. They're already way ahead of the world as it relates to that. So, all right, you got the actual breakdown on how Russia is trying to sneak subs up into the north above Canada and then strategically put us under lockdown here in the United States as it relates to thermonuclear war. Now, there's other reasons that Trump wants Greenland that I'll speak to briefly, which is that minerals is another reason, because Greenland has a lot of the underground minerals that China is benefiting from as it relates to semiconductors and building computer chips. If we can secure Greenland, then we will have access to those minerals and we won't be able to be blocked as it relates to our integrated circuits, which is the microchips that go into all of the devices, because we won't be dependent on Africa and places like China to get those minerals as it relates to building up the United States of America's technological infrastructure, Silicon Valley, et cetera, et cetera. So it's important that people understand that, like I said, what Trump is trying to do as it relates to making the U.S. a larger country by expanding back to these territories, some of them old, because we're going to get to the Panama Canal, but some of them new, like Greenland, it has all to do with that Arctic Circle. So I'm going to close out on this portion of what I'm talking about with the very last thing to show you that Russia has been strategically coming up in that Arctic, in the circle in the North Pole to set up itself for the gas and the oil. So that's the minerals that they're going to obtain, but also strategically, militarily, they have been working on a way to basically lock down the United States of America. And when I say that, the last thing I'm going to speak on, let me just get my little notes here. What I'm reading to you guys can all look up this article or look up about this. This is about nuclear-powered icebreaker, right? So a nuclear-powered icebreaker is an icebreaker with an onboard nuclear plant power that produces power for the vessel's propulsion system. So this whole aspect of what a nuclear icebreaker is, do you guys know that Russia is the only country that has these type of ships? They're called nuclear icebreakers. They have they're ran nuclear, and they're using these icebreakers to break through that Arctic Circle, because there's still portions of the Arctic Circle that are nothing but ice with water underneath it. So they've been using these nuclear power icebreakers for a long time to break away the ice and allow to get under the Arctic Ocean, but it also allows them to bring their submarines in, like I said before. So that's what we looking at when we looking at Greenland and we looking at why Canada. It has various reasons, but I'm speaking to the military ones and giving y'all a little breadcrumbs on some of the other reasons. Yes, it's for minerals. Yes, it's for strategic locationing, but it's mainly because of military conflict. Which will bring me down to the south, the Panama Canal. Everybody heard that Trump feels that the Panamanians slighted America after Jimmy Carter gave them back the canal. People don't realize the Panama Canal was given back to the sovereignty of Panama for $1 after the United States helped them build it. And in the process of building that canal, 38,000 people is alleged to have died from malaria. So it took years and years for them to build that canal. America or the United States sent all of its workers and people, and they work with different countries to dig that trench that we call the Panama Canal. But in the process, because once they started digging up underneath those rivers and stuff, the mosquitoes came, and back then they didn't have something to block the malaria that it caused, and people were dying left and right. So like almost like a war. It was a war to build the Panama Canal, and the U.S. lost a lot of people's lives building that for the Panamanians. Now, in the current trend, Panama has sided with China as it relates to that strategic waterway, which the Panama Canal is capable of bringing all of the trade that comes with the Atlantic Ocean and connect the Pacific Ocean and bring things up into the Gulf of Mexico, which is another thing that Trump said he's going to do. He's naming the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America. So Trump is trying to strategically, with Panama, protect the United States from its enemies to the South and Central America, strategically take Greenland so that he can protect us from the North as it relates to Canada and the Arctic Ocean and Russia, and the European Union, because I want to say this. Currently, the European Union is an ally to the United States and Russia's an enemy. My belief is that Trump is going to technically flip those poles, meaning that what we're about to see is a reunification with Russia as it relates to them being our own World War II ally, and we're going to watch the European Union move more away from America, which should startle the globe, because if anybody knows the history of the country Germany being the strongest economy in the European Union, then the fact that what Trump is doing as it relates to working with Russia, that puts fear in the Germans' hearts, and it's forcing Germany now to say that they need a strong leader to come and sit inside of Germany because of what's going on with the United States as it relates to Russia. And if you look at history, the Germans fear the Russians because when Germany was divided between Russia and the United States post-World War II, word is the Russians were treating the Germans very harshly. This is why if you look back in history, people were so happy when the Berlin Wall came down because they were able to now go from east to west, but people were always trying to climb over that Berlin Wall from the east side of Germany because a lot of people were claiming that the Russians were raping and pillaging the Germans when they had control of East Germany after World War II, and that the Americans were treating them a lot better. So that's why people were trying to climb over the wall east to west and go to West Germany, where it was occupied by America as opposed to the occupation of East Germany by the Russians. So all of this stuff is relative because, like I said, this is current events. I'm speaking about it now as it relates to current events, but I want to deal a little bit with Bible eschatology because it's like, where are all of these events going? What's the purpose of me telling you about military conflict as it relates to the North Pole and in the South with Panama? Because the Bible, in my opinion, is sure, is sound. And the sure word of Bible prophecy if you trust in Jesus Christ and you receive that Holy Spirit properly, when you're reading these things, the Spirit will guide you and it will show you where all of this is leading. And the question is, to me, Trump is only going to be able to give America a short time of resurgence. I believe the sure word of Bible prophecy, which says that we're going to be plunged into what the Bible calls the Great Tribulation, or a war that is going to be like a war we've never seen since the beginning of time. And it's going to kill a large majority of the people on this planet. We can call that World War III. It's been rumored. Wars and rumors of wars was something that Christ spoke would be going on in the latter days before his return. And I can say that World War III has been a war that has been rumored to be coming ever since World War II, all the way into the previous presidential candidacy with Trump. He was saying, I'm going to avert World War III. And what people need to understand as that relates to Germany, it has a lot to do with certain neo-Nazi groups that are spread out all over the world, right? So now let me talk about Germany, because I'm gonna shift a little bit. Like I said, we spoke about why Trump is strategically grabbing these locations. I'm moving now over to Germany and the European Union. And the reason why I'm going to go to Germany and the European Union, it has a lot to do with the book of Daniel and the book of Revelations. I'll get to how that relates in a second, but I just want to break down some things about what happened in modern Germany post-World War II, right? So I'm going to be reading you guys two things that should show us that the Nazis weren't totally defeated in World War II. They went underground, and the children of the Nazis, which would be a lot of top key leaders around the world today, the Nazi Party didn't go anywhere. It went underground. Now, if that sounds crazy, everybody that's listening to this, I want you guys in your Google search or your DuckDuckGo search to just search Operation Paperclip. Now, Operation Paperclip, and I'm going to read something briefly, was a secret United States intelligence program in which more than 1,600 German scientists, engineers, and technicians were taken from former Nazi Germany to the United States for government employment after the end of World War II in Europe. Between 1945 and 1959, several were confirmed to be former members of the Nazi Party, including the SS and the SA. So here you have it. This was the information, Operation Paperclip, declassified, and we've been speaking a lot about declassification of documentation, but these documents were declassified under the CIA, which admits that the United States had a secret intelligence program with 1,600 German scientists, engineers, and technicians to bring them right to the United States of America. And this is post-World War II. So when you go back to the trials of Nuremberg, if people know some basic history, after World War II, the Nazis were tried in Nuremberg, and certain things were put into international law that they can never ever rise up and build a German empire in the manner at which Hitler did in World War II and what they did in World War I ever again. These things were decided in Nuremberg. But as we see, because of the United States sins, the very country we live in, they went and got those scientists and engineers and technicians, obviously because a lot of the things that were being done in the concentration camps were basically done with human beings, and they were able to run all kind of tests and things that you would never be able to run in any other atmosphere as it relates to human beings. And they wanted to get that information, so the United States Central Intelligence Agency created Operation Paperclip to give those scientists that escaped World War II Germany jobs right here in the United States, and they've been here ever since. And I'll just give a little sidebar. Some years ago on the History Channel, I watched an actual show where they admitted that the family of Hitler was given political asylum in the United States in New York City and Long Island. So the family of Hitler maintains a hidden identity, but they live in the United States of America to this day. And I'm showing how under Operation Paperclip, right? Now, the second thing, so it's like, okay, so the U.S. provided asylum to all of these Germans, right? How did they do it? Okay, now the second thing I'm going to read, I want everybody to look up rat lines. Now, it's funny we talking about rat lines because we know that in the streets, we call people who snitch and all of that rats. So I'm about to talk about the rat lines. This is German. Were systems of escape routes for German Nazis and other fascists fleeing Europe from 1945 onwards in the aftermath of World War II. These escape routes mainly led towards havens in the Americas, particularly in Argentina, though also in Paraguay, Colombia, Brazil, Uruguay, Mexico, Peru, Guatemala, Ecuador, and Bolivia, and as well as the United States, Canada, Australia, Spain, and Switzerland. So these rat lines, we just spoke about Operation Paperclip. We know that the Germans were able to seek political asylum. A lot of their scientists were spread out, but this is how they were able to move them out of Germany. It's called the rat lines. So there were two primary routes. The first went from Germany to Spain, then to Argentina. The second went from Germany to Rome, then to Genoa, and then South America. So basically what that's explaining is there was like two ways or two routes that the Operation Paperclip would use these rat lines to bring the actual Germans out of Germany and give them new political asylum in all these Central and South American countries and spread them out. So when you hear people talking about recently Elon throwing up the Hail Hitler, they got to deal with it from the right angle because the United States has been harboring so-called Nazi scientists and everything since World War II. And the reason why I'm explaining it from the Operation Paperclip to the rat lines aspect of it, because this is where the Catholic Church comes into play. Okay? So you got Germany, you got World War II, Italy, you got all of these countries that did all of these atrocities, not only to the Jewish people that they put in the death camps, but I'm going to expand that out and say that Italy ravaged Ethiopia. So not only did they Holocaust all of those Jewish people, they also Holocaust a bunch of Africans, because if you go back into the history of Menelik II, in Ethiopia, he stopped Italy from annexing Ethiopia, and during World War II, Italy got its payback. It got its payback when it attacked Ethiopia under Mussolini. This is why if you go in history, you will see the one that they call Haile Selassie. He had to flee Ethiopia because he was the grandson of Menelik, and he had to seek refuge with the Queen of England. So if you go back, you can maybe find this if you look this up. Haile Selassie in England. And this is around the time of World War II. He rode in a British motorcade with the Queen of England. This had a lot to do with the annexation of Ethiopia and the attack that that Mussolini put on them in retribution for what Menelik II, who sat over Ethiopia when Italy tried to run up and raid them the first time. He killed all them Italian soldiers and sent them running and tucking their tail. They came back in World War II under Mussolini, and then they ravaged Ethiopia. That kind of gets left out when we talk about the Holocaust. Now, another key aspect of what they did when they raided Ethiopia is they took the 5 pillars of Axum. So 5 Oblasts was taken from Ethiopia and put on ships. After they beat the Ethiopians in World War II, they whipped them people, and then they took their symbols and they raised up the 5 pillars of Axum in St. Peter's Square in Rome. Those pillars were returned to the Ethiopians. Don't quote me, I don't got that in my notes. The year that the actual Italians or Rome returned the 5 pillars that they took from Ethiopia when they raided Ethiopia in World War II under Mussolini. Now back to my point. So you have post-World War II, you have actual Nazis that were given asylum in various countries, including the U.S., through Operation Paperclip, and they were able to sneak out of Germany through what they call called the rat lines. And now I'm going to make the Vatican connection. The rat lines were supported by rogue elements in the Vatican, particularly an Austrian bishop and 4 Croatian clergy of the Catholic Church who sympathized. So here we see a connection between a church and a military power. And this is where I'm going to get in, like I said, when I get into the eschatology shortly ahead, that the Bible answers all the questions of where's all of this leading? Where's everything we see going on in America today with Trump, Greenland, Panama? Why are these things happening? What role does the European Union, and as I explained, the European Union is a combination of nations, right, that is ran mainly by Germany. Now, Germany hasn't really been able to expand its military because the United States has been the protectorate of Germany since World War II. That's why you've seen Trump arguing with NATO, because Trump feels that the United States is the #1 contributor to NATO, which is an army put together of various countries in the European Union to protect it from Russia. But the problem that Trump has with NATO is that the United States pays the most money when you got huge economies in Germany and other countries in Europe, and they're not even fitting the bill for the thing that protects them. Now that has a double-edged sword to it, because as Trump moves towards make America great again, or focusing more on the internal issues of the United States of America, the door is being open for a rise of a militarized Germany and a combination of church and state with the modern Catholic Church, where they're going to crusade through this whole globe and kill more people than you've ever seen in any history of any war. And that's where I will deal with some of our full preterists, because full preterism believes that all things were fulfilled in AD 70. But we believe as partial preterists that the things that happened in AD 70, yes, they were partial fulfillments of the prophecies, but the vision that Daniel got was a vision that extended out into AD 70, past AD 70, and all the way to the return of Jesus Christ, which is shortly ahead. And then the thing that I'm going to do to show that the Bible is sound is that when you utilize your Bible in the right way and you understand in the Holy Spirit what Christ and what all of his prophets were relaying, you will see that the Roman Empire, though it fell after AD 70, it rose right back up in the earth, and the Bible says it will raise up 7 times. Really 10. There would be 10 kings. But the Bible mainly focuses on the 7 kings that come out of the 10 as it relates to the harlot or a false church riding on a beast. And this is all dealing with the book of Daniel. So I'm going to go a little bit into that so we can build a little bit. Maybe Carl might want to say something. But I'm going to just start off. And let me say this too. What people got to understand about modern Germany and what they were able to do post-World War II is when you look at the European Union, Germany got wise. Hitler at that time was annexing various countries. He was running into countries and killing people, and bloodshed was crazy during World War II because Hitler was going and taking countries by force. What the European Union was able to do post-World War II is take most of the countries that Hitler was taking by force in World War II back and put them right up under Germany without firing one shot. They used the economics to do it this time. And I'm going to give you an example of it. I'm going to tell you, Germany defeated and occupied. So this is World War II. This is countries that Germany waded through blood to take over in World War II. They attacked and they occupied Poland, which they attacked in September 1939. Denmark. There goes Denmark. Remember, Denmark controls Greenland, so I'm going to stay on topic. We talking about Trump, why Panama, why Greenland, and why Canada. So Denmark, being the holder of Greenland, was taken over by force in April of 1940. Norway in April of 1940, Belgium, May of 1940, the Netherlands, May of 1940, Luxembourg, May of 1940, France, Yugoslavia, and Greece. So Hitler was annexing countries all throughout Europe and trying to take over the world during World War II, but he was doing it by force. The reason I'm telling y'all that is, remember what I said, the Netherlands is a part of the European Union now. And they didn't have to go take it by force. They took it economically by getting them to join the European Economic and Coal and Steel Community, and which later was formed the European Union, with Germany at the head. And all we waiting for as it relates to prophecy is to see the Catholic Church sit another man like Hitler inside of German politics, and then what the Bible tells us is that that empire is going to wade through seas of blood, killing Israelites, like they did in the first century when they killed most of God's prophets that came out after Jesus Christ established his church on with Peter. So over here on Carl's channel, he talks a lot to people that listen to him about how the first Christians were Israelites, and most of them were put to death by the Roman Empire so that Rome can take over Christianity and claim that they're the vicars of Jesus Christ in the place of the people who are following the Israel doctrine, keeping the Saturday as the Sabbath and the God's commands and things of that nature. So let me just drop a jewel, because in the book of Israel, in Exodus, Israel was told how to build a tabernacle, right? The altar also had to be built, and that's in Exodus 27:1. So I'm paraphrasing. Make sure everybody writes these verses down and go read that Bible, because I'm not here to do all the work for you. I'm here to give you the breadcrumbs, and for everybody listening to go test what I'm saying. Go do your own research, and if the Lord guides you, you should line up more than not with understanding what the Bible's telling us. So Israel was told how to build the tabernacle. You guys can go to Exodus 26 to see how the tabernacle is supposed to be built. Then an altar also had to be built, and that's in Exodus 27, right? There also was a lamp, and that's important. And thou shalt command the children of Israel that they bring thee pure olive oil beaten for the light, to cause the lamp to burn always. That's in verse 20 of Exodus 27. So now that lamp is important, because when you go into the book of Revelations, there's a mystery of 7 stars which thou sawest. This is Revelation 1:20. The mystery of the 7 stars which thou sawest in my right hand, and the 7 golden candlesticks. There goes that candle or that oil that had to be lit in ancient Israel in a lamp setup, and then it will also move through the generations post AD 70 through all God's eras of his church. So the 7 stars are the angels of the 7 churches, and the 7 candlesticks which thou sawest are the 7 churches. So when you're looking at the candlesticks in the book of Revelation, you know, all right, that's 7 churches. Those 7 churches go as follow: Ephesus, Smyrna, Pergamos, Thyatira, Sardis, Philadelphia, and Laodicea. And if you want to know where you can read about those 7 churches also, that's in Revelations 2 and 3. It outlines those churches. But now I'm saying that because I'm going to get into my full premise right here. Daniel, the book of Daniel, unlocks the book of Revelation. Meaning that you have to unlock Revelations, understanding the timeline of the events that Daniel foresaw as it relates to AD 70. But I'm making the argument post AD 70 as well, all the way to the return of Jesus Christ. Now, my premise on that I'm going to use to make the argument against people who are full preterists that believe all things were fulfilled in AD 70. I have many premises, but one of them is that the Bible says that when Jesus returns to this earth, all the other kingdoms of the world is going to be brought into the house of Israel. There will be no other kingdom but one kingdom. It also says that the children of Israel are going to inherit all the kingdoms of the earth. So we live in the modern world where you got the nation of Israel, but you still got Germany, you still got the Gentile nations, the Asians and all of that. The Bible, if you take what Christ told us literally, he said that when he comes and he returns to this earth, there will be no more other nations. It's going to be everybody's Israel. Because he's going to beat all those nations' swords into plowshares, which is another premise that I have. There's no way you can tell me that the greatest war, as Daniel speaks about, as it relates to the first fulfillment of AD 70, was greater than the wars that were fought in this earth post AD 70. That includes all the crusades of the Roman Catholic Church, all the way up to World War I and then World War II, which we all know was called the War to End All Wars, because there was no war in the earth that could even compare to World War II as it relates to the use of the thermonuclear or atomic bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So you can't make the argument that the book of Daniel, that the full preterists make using the book of Daniel, that all of this was fulfilled in AD 70, because there's certain prophecies that break down how in the war that we're speaking about that happens post AD 70 is going to be a war that's greater than any war that ever happened in the history of man. And anybody with a brain can see that being potentially true, because we're talking now about eschatology and where all this is leading. A World War III that involves thermonuclear weapons, where various countries have the ability to launch those type of weapons, as well as certain weapons that we don't even know exist, or we have an idea like laser weapons and hypersonic missiles and all kind of things that can literally destroy and kill every man, woman, and child on this planet 100 times over with the amount of nuclear weapons that various countries now have. And if we go into anything of a thermonuclear war, it could kill every man, woman, and child on the planet. We've never had a time like this. 80, 70, they weren't using thermonuclear weapons. They didn't have these capabilities. So back to Daniel, right? I think that me and Carl can agree on this, that the image or the statue in Daniel, it breaks down world ruling empires. Right, so let me get this lined up right.
4 great dynasties.
Yep.
Babylon,
4 world ruling empires.
Babylon, the Medes, and the Persians, then Greek, Rome.
Exactly, and we can find that in Daniel 2, verse 31 through 34. Nebuchadnezzar saw a great image whose head was of fine gold, his breasts and arms of silver, his belly and thighs of brass, his legs of iron, and his feet part iron and part clay. And as Carl said, we agree on that. Those 4 dynasties or empires that were explained in Daniel are the Chaldean Empire. They were followed by the Persians, then the Greco-Macedonians, and finally, we got the Roman Empire. Now, again, because we're partial preterists, we agree that all things were fulfilled in AD 70 as it related to what the book of Daniel was speaking about for that time leading into AD 70. But the vision that Daniel got was so crazy, it went out past that all the way to where we at now and to what is culminating in the return of Jesus Christ.
Well, let's say this. It was due to the fact that it had been prophesied that Israel and the temple will be taken out.
Yep, I'll agree with that.
So for Israel and the temple to be taken out, 70 AD had to be fulfilled. It was fulfilled. When he took the temple and the priests, killing the Levitical priesthood, he put Israel into captivity. Israel disappeared and the Edomites became Israelites.
Now, as it relates to that, right? So now we agree that those things in AD 70 was fulfilled. Now, we talking about the partial preterism and what was going to happen after AD 70, all the way up into the modern Gregorian calendar year of where we at now, 2025. A lot has happened to show us that those 2 legs, because if you notice, when you look at the statue of Nebuchadnezzar that he saw in the dream that was being interpreted by God via his prophet Daniel, you saw that it had 2 legs. And that two legs is symbolic to the Roman Empire because Rome was split into two, right? They had their one capital in Rome and the other was in Constantinople. So that's showing, see, let me make this clear, because people who kick against the Bible, like a lot of people, like I said, a third of the Bible deals with history. So you should be able to go to secular history and line up that, yes, there is an account in history where Jerusalem was sacked in AD 70. And then everything that proceeded out of that. Yes, Rome was in Constantinople and had Rome as two of its capitals at the same time. And that's why you get two legs of iron that lead all the way down to the feet of iron and clay mixed. The iron and clay mix that the feet are represented is what we're going to see shortly ahead, as we see Rome and Germany and Italy come together for one last hurrah, World War III.
Well,
but I'm gonna give you. Go ahead.
A lot of that you were saying about the European common market is what they call it. It's where the Europeans come together under a treaty called the Roman Treaty, so on and so forth.
Now we're going to talk about the fourth kingdom, because we know that inside of Daniel and Revelation it speaks about the four world ruling empires, but mainly the fourth one. That's the one that we're looking at now, because now we under the time of Rome, right? And history reveals that the Roman Empire is real and it existed, right? The Romans attained world domination around the time of 30 BC, ruled over 500 years until they were crushed in AD 476, right? So the Roman Empire, the ancient Roman Empire fell. We all know that, right? The Roman Empire is represented by the two legs of iron, symbolizing the two ancient capitals, Rome and Constantinople. Right now, Daniel 2:35 says, "Then was the iron, the clay, the brass, the silver, and the gold broken to pieces together, and became like the chaff of the summer thresh florins, and the wind carried them away, that no place was found for them, and the stone that smote the image became a great mountain and filled the whole earth." Now we know that rock is Jesus Christ. So from a eschatology standpoint, if I take that literal, it says that when Jesus comes, he's going to smash these empires and they're never going to be able to operate in the earth again. So that's an argument to make, that the fact that we're even living under a modern Roman Empire is proof that these things have not been all fulfilled.
What if you take it literally, figuratively, however you want to take it? Jesus got to come and shut down everything we ever known in this world and create a new earth.
Exactly.
But people don't want to take it that way. I mean, you can take it literally, figuratively, metaphorically, however you want to take it. You got to take it though.
Okay, so Daniel 2:44, it says, "In the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever." So back to the whole image of the rock breaking these kingdoms, and that the kingdom of the Most High God is going to consume those kingdoms and stand forever. We're not at that point yet. We're still dealing with wars and rumors of wars.
Meaning it's unfulfilled. So saying anything in the Bible is fully fulfilled is foolishness, full foolishness. FF.
Now, I want to get a little intricate here, because I'm going to Daniel 7. And again, I'm bouncing around. Everybody have your pens out. You got to do the research for yourself. I would advise people that listen to us speak about this, say a prayer, ask God's spirit, and then go get to your own research. But I'm giving you enough things that you could put together and try to, and giving you a head start. In Daniel 7, the four Gentile empires are also revealed by God in vision. Only this time they are represented by four beasts. The fourth beast, representing the Roman Empire, has 10 horns on its head. That's verse 7 and 8 of Daniel 7. And I'm going to read them. After this, I saw the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces and stamped the residue with the feet of it, and it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns, right? So considering those 10 horns, we would have to be able to look at Rome and see 10 kingdoms that rose up, and with the focal point being on the 7 remaining. And I'm going to walk through secular history to show you guys when all of this happened. I'm going to try to do it as quick as possible.
Well, one quick, I can't remember the term, but it's called the European Common Market. You spoke on it, didn't you? I don't know what term you used to speak on it, but
yeah, the European Union or the European coal and steel or the
European
Common
Union.
Market.
That's when they came together, and it's more than 10. But when they dwindle down to 10, all hell gonna break loose. Well, go ahead.
Yeah, that left 7 horns, 7 resurrections of an empire. Now, see, the thing that how I'm breaking it down is you're right. It's more than literally 7 kings per se, but it's 7 raising up and then going into the abyss or going underground. And it's really symbolized by dynasties. So when you look at the different resurrections of this Roman Empire, it will raise up in the earth. It might have had, let's say, 800 years of different kings. They ran by dynasties. As an example, the Habsburg dynasty, where they had a bunch of Roman emperors under that portion of history, but they will represent one of the mountain peaks that is spoken about in Revelation 17, right? And I'm going to walk you through the history to show that Hitler was the 6th head. And the one that we're waiting on now, that we're speaking about in eschatology, that's forming out of the common market of Europe, is going to be the 7th time that Rome peaked and is going to go out and kill all the saints of God. Because when you understand Revelations and what John saw when he looked under the altar and he saw all of the heads of the slain saints, it shows that to locate who this beast is, it's going to have a lot of blood on his hands. And if you look at history, you can't tell me any other institution or religious institution that has more bloodshed on its hands than the Roman Empire.
With the Holy
all the way
Roman
up to
wars.
World War I and II. That empire, from the very first Christians that they murdered, all the way throughout history, has been killing God's people the whole time. All the way up to World War II, when Hitler snatched the crown of Charlemagne out of Austria. So there's also a crown. They crown these emperors under Rome. So what I'm saying is it's a church-state combined. The difference between ancient Rome and what took place in AD, I think it's 554 under Justinian. When Justinian came in, he took out 3 barbarian tribes that took over Rome after the fall of Rome. So when Rome fell, then barbarians came and took it over. It became the Holy Roman Empire under Justinian in 554 AD, when he basically combined with the Catholic Church and wore a crown. The second time that the Roman Empire rose up again, because remember, it's represented by mountains, meaning that there can be more than one king, but each era of this church, just like God's 7 eras of his church, they will raise up, then they will go down underground, and just like and the reason why I'm saying that is I showed you guys earlier the rat lines and Operation Paperclip to show you that the Germans and the Catholic Church worked together to put those Nazis underground. And the whole world right now is asleep because they don't even see most of what me and Brother Carl is talking about here, about the future of Germany and how it's going to bring us to World War III. And the Bible says it's going to bring us under the great tribulation, a time that man has never seen, and that that country is going to wade through seas of blood all the way to Armageddon and the return of Jesus Christ to this earth. But I'm going to give you the 6 heads. The first one was Justinian. The second one they all love. Everybody heard this before. Charles the Great, Charlemagne. And we know in the hip hop community, we got a brother named Charlemagne the God. So Charlemagne was the second time after Justinian and all the kings that came up under him as emperors of Rome. When they went underground, and they rose back up again under Charles the Great. The third time was under Otto the Great in 1273. The fourth time was the Habsburg dynasty. That was probably the longest succession of kings that were kings under the Roman Empire before they went underground to the fifth resurrection. But I'm walking again. The first was Justinian. Go do your history on who Justinian was and how he set up what is known as the Holy Roman Empire, not to be confused with ancient Rome. This is post the first three kings because the Bible tells us there's 10 horns. The first three I told you were the barbarian tribes that took over Rome, or took over the Holy Roman Empire, but they wasn't holy yet. They became holy when Justinian was crowned. Then they went wading through seas of blood, killing more God's people. Then they went underground, and then they rose up again under Charlemagne. Then they waded through more seas of blood. They went underground, and then they rose up through Otto the Great. Then they waded through more blood, and they went underground, and they rose up again under the Habsburg dynasty. And in the Habsburg dynasty, this is when Spain comes into play with Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand, and how Germany and the Roman Empire tied themselves into the Spain. Then you got the genealogy of the Habsburg dynasty divided Germany and Spain along those lines, right? Then you have the next one, the fifth resurrection was Napoleon. Napoleon was where it was different because this time wasn't a German emperor, it was an actual Frenchman. So let me read this to you. When Napoleon finally crushed what remained of the Habsburg Empire, remember I told you the Habsburg dynasty was the fourth resurrection of the Holy Roman Empire, and they had more than one king. It really spans over like 800 years. But now you have Napoleon. He steps in, and then it appeared that the last vestige of the Holy Roman Empire was destroyed under Napoleon. So a lot of scholars say that Napoleon did away with the Holy Roman Empire, but we're going to show in history how it rose up. But what historians do not realize is that when Napoleon grabbed the emperor's crown from the Pope's hands, he crowned himself the Holy Roman Empire. That's the fifth time.
Well,
the sixth time was Hitler.
Quick question. How much longer do you want to go?
I'm about to wrap it up here, but the sixth time was Hitler. And then what we waiting on is the seventh resurrection, i.e. the modern German common market is going to make an alliance with the current Catholic Church, and then they're going to go to war.
Which, while once again, the Holy Roman Empire, you have a secular and a spiritual leader. You had a pope, and that's why you had a beast and the false prophet. One is the beast because he can go to war, and the false prophet is the one that falsely tell you stuff, i.e. the Pope.
Exactly. So I'm showing you what I walked you through from Justinian all the way to Hitler, how you have that beast and that false prophet or that church that crowns these individuals the emperor of Rome. And Hitler was the emperor of Rome because he went and snatched the crown in Austria when he annexed that country. He took that crown and put him on his head. And I showed how post-World War II, the rat lines and Operation Paperclip was set up to sneak those Germans out of Germany and give them political asylum, i.e. taking them underground so that they can rise up again one last time. Because the Bible says after the 7 heads, it's 10 total, but after the 7, then Jesus Christ will return to this planet, and then he's going to destroy all the kingdoms of this earth and bring them under one house. So yeah, there's more to this. Like I said, I think we definitely, we'll do another show because I got a bunch of other notes. But I just wanted to, keep everybody up to speed. So we started this off. I'm gonna close out like this. We started this off with current events as it relates to why Greenland, Panama, and Canada. Why is Trump seizing or looking at these locations for the strategic betterment of the United States of America and growth? Right? Look from a military standpoint. Then I gave you a little bit of eschatology showing how all of this is culminating into World War III and what countries, some of the countries are doing. In the next show, I'll break down a little bit more the north, south, east, and west. The Bible explains how every single nation on this planet is going to move in regards to the coming kingdom of Jesus Christ.
Ain't nobody effing with this. Nobody effing with this. Nobody even gonna try. They'll talk about it, but not with us around.
Well, the God told me to do it daily, and the work has to be done continually. You do it on your platform. I do it in my work, in my private work. I'm always trying to do the work of the Most High. So we trying to keep this daily. And we gonna expand on this topic coming up. But that's it, people. Like I said, I don't want to be overly long-winded with our shows, but I had to cover a lot of ground on this one because people got to understand that this country is living by the second. And if the people don't get this one right, then But we don't worry about that because the sure word of Bible prophecy shows us how to discern all these events and all of what these nations and leaders are doing in the world as it relates to what the Bible says about the return of Jesus Christ. That's it.
Fall on my right and my left, I'll be watching. Not crying, but watching.
So that's it, bro. Good show. I appreciate you for opening the platform. We got more to come. There's a lot more coming as it relates to that declassification. Go watch that last show because I'm going to say this on the outro too. Trump yesterday just did some pivotal things as it relates to the U.S. military. One thing that he did was he reinstated all of the soldiers that was kicked out of the military for not receiving the coronavirus vaccine. So that involves him weakening our military. He also outlawed all transgenders in the military. He's trying to bring our military back strong because it was being weakened by certain political parties in order to have us attacked by a foreign government. So they wanted to have us hit internally. That's why Trump's rounding up all of the illegals and the terrorists. Then they wanted a foreign country to attack us from outside and overthrow the United States government. And I'll get more into that in the next show on how that is and who's involved with that.
All right, well, I like the information. Good majority of it I agree with. If I disagree, I got to go study to find where I disagree.
All right, that's what up. Yeah, me and Carl talked about maybe doing a debate. I don't want to have a vain debate, but if we find something that we disagree on, you might get a Israel Doctrine Dollar Skills debate, y'all. I'm not promising that, but we trying to work it out. It's gonna be something good though that will edify the people. I don't want to do a vain debate, but definitely, that's it.
All right.
Peace,
y'all. We out. No outro, just out. Have a good day. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you can be notified when we do what we do. Peace.